Hey Monique,
Hi,
how you doing today?
I'm good.
Good. Gonna ask you a hard question.
Okay, I love hard questions.
Can you remember a time when you have picked a fight with a loved one because maybe you were having an upper limit issue?
Saturday?
Gotcha. So this episode is going to be really valuable to you.
I hope so.
Let's dive into it. Welcome to Heart and Soul, the podcast where we empower and inspire women to lead their best lives, harnessing the power of their hearts and souls. We are Mariah,
And Monique,
your hosts and guides on this journey of self-discovery and personal growth.
in each episode, we will dive deep into topics that matter most to you, from self-love and confidence to career development, relationships, and everything in between. We believe that every woman has a unique strength and inner wisdom waiting to be unleashed.
Join us as we cover insightful heart and soul-centered topics and interview incredible women who've overcome challenges, chased their dreams, and found their true purpose. Through all of this, you will discover practical tips, strategies, and real-life stories to help you navigate life's twists and turns.
For whatever season of life you're in, this podcast is your safe space to explore, learn, grow, and possibly even laugh and cry with us. So grab your headphones, maybe your favorite drink, and we'll embark on this transformative journey together.
With heart, I'm Mariah.
And with soul, I'm Monique.
Okay, well, I think anyone listening could probably pinpoint a recent experience of having conflict with a loved one, maybe not realizing at the time that it was related to an upper limit problem. But
Yes.
that's what we're gonna talk about today.
Love it.
So once again, we are in our book series for The Big Leap, a book by Gay Hendricks, which I always like to point out. It's the one with the fishbowl on the cover, two fishbowls, little fish making his big leap into the bigger bowl. But one of the chapters in the book, one of the concepts that is really poignant, really hits home hard,
Yeah.
is how relationships can suffer from upper limit issues.
This is so important. I think we might have stated this, but it's so worth mentioning again. But relationships are like the cornerstones, the foundations of our lives. So we can talk about work and career all we want, but relationships are where the rubber meets the road.
They really are, because none of us could get through life on this planet by ourselves.
We would have been put here by ourselves.
Yeah, we are in community all of the time
Right.
and in relationship. So I feel also to point out that this episode, I believe, really relates back to our previous episodes, 28 and 29, on spaciousness and triggers,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of the conversation in those episodes related to relationship and communication are largely related to upper limit problems. So I
Absolutely.
think now recording this episode, thinking about those in context is really interesting to me. So after you listen to this, go back and re-listen to those
Yeah.
and think about how creating spaciousness is really allowing yourself to push through that limit. And triggers are really signs of where you're upper limited.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I just wanted to flag those episodes from the beginning because I think it's interesting as we produce this podcast to see how all these topics relate to each other and tie into each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out everything is linked. So, well, okay. So relationships are constantly suffering from upper limit problems, and maybe
Interesting.
one of the easiest places to view them when you're thinking about where you're at versus your partner, whether they're your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your husband, your partner, whatever, your spouse of any kind, or maybe if just in your friendships and in your family relationships.
Yeah.
Like it's just really your loved ones on the grand scale. So you have to remember that both people in any relationship fundamentally have a thermostat and feel flawed or stuck at some
Oh my
level,
gosh,
right?
yes.
And if you're enlightened to be pushing past that, to be
Mhm.
moving through your upper limiting beliefs, and your partner is not there with you, there's friction immediately
Absolutely.
because you're making big leaps. And if they're not also making their own big leaps,
Right.
you're going to see definitely upper limiting coming back and forth between the two of you because they're not going to be understanding of like the journey that you're on
Mm-hmm.
or you of them, right? Like you might see
Absolutely.
your partner making big leaps and you can't understand like where they're at because you're both independently living out your own story, your own journey. And just because you're in relationship doesn't mean that what brings them joy automatically brings you joy. And that's a
Absolutely.
really important concept. I know in my relationship, we have many things that we do separately that bring us both joy. And the I don't want to say struggle, but maybe that's the right word, has been to find the things that bring us both joy
Mm-hmm.
and that we enjoy doing together because you have to both support the independent self
Yes.
and then together as the partnership and as the couple and having that united front around growing through the upper limits of your relationship. But a really great quote that I want to read that I
Mm-hmm.
think just kind of sums this up. Healthy relationships can only exist between equals who co-create together and both take 100% responsibility for the relationship.
Whoa, mic drop on that one. 100%
Yeah.
responsibility.
So it's being completely responsible for yourself as part of that partnership and
Yes.
really in life, right? Like your best relationships are when you take 100% responsibility for how you interact and act within the world. And if you bring that into relationship and you have a partner who is equally bringing the same energy, the
Mm-hmm.
same commitment, and you grow together, now you're both in your zone of genius.
Magic.
This is the love match of the century. Like
Right?
this is what we're aspiring for, right?
Love it.
Now, everybody is coming into a relationship or partnership in different places in
Yeah,
life. Your
different little
temperature
paths.
gauges
Yes.
are different because
Right.
you're coming from different childhoods, right?
Right.
However, you can get there, but you both have to be 100% willing to work towards getting there.
And to take 100% ownership for your part, which is a
Yes.
lot of, I had this thought after maybe Saturday of how I view myself as one way, but that is not necessarily the way that I come across
Yeah.
to
Yep.
everyone, probably, right? So intentions are really, really important. But am I how I view myself accurate? Did I maybe pick a fight unknowingly, like subconsciously, unaware? Because something else was going on from the grander scheme of things or whatever. I was not in my zone of genius in that moment. I was probably not even in my zone of excellence. I was probably in my zone of incompetence.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of radical self awareness.
Yeah. To realize you own that you were 100% not operating
Right. Well, now I
in,
do, but then
but
no.
then no,
No.
but at least there's repair
Yes.
after
Yes.
rupture if you
Yes.
can admit and own that you were not there. Like I 100% own that I was not in the best place
Right. So
in this
yes,
conversation.
I will say, like, your partner doesn't have to read this book and be all about the book, right, to get there. They just need to see their own stories that they're contributing to this, such as myself. I needed to see the story that contributed to me self sabotaging and starting a fight and doing the things that I did to cause an issue, right? So, and then I have to now take 100% ownership.
So funny you mentioned whether your partner should read this book. I've been trying to get my partner to read this book. I've even strategically put it on in the car as an audiobook while on vacation.
Just in the background. What's
Let's just
this?
listen to a chapter of this great book. I do feel that it is very helpful if both members of a partnership have read the book.
But not
However,
necessary.
even
Right.
as much as I proclaim that, I've not necessarily successfully executed it.
Here, just drink this. I promise it's
Promise,
good for
it
you.
tastes great. Yes, but different people process things. So
Totally different.
rather
Yes.
than that, I tried to use the concepts from the book to influence our communication and to explain why I am being the way I am or what,
Mhm.
why I'm pursuing the things I'm doing, and I tried to let it rub off a little bit. I did. I recently actually told my husband, like, you, and in his position at work, I'm like, you are unhappy because you're in your zone of excellence. You can do
Mm,
this job. You're great at this job. Everybody's like, yeah, you're really good at this job. But I see, and I know you see, that it is not your zone of genius. And we both know that when you're in your zone of genius, you are on fire. You are
yes. That
unstoppable.
passion.
The dollars follow, the accolades follow. And I think it was that conversation that really helped him realize, like, I have to make a change.
Wow.
Because he works in
Powerful.
corporate America. You can get very stuck.
Yes.
That ladder is hard and long to climb.
Yes.
But I just wasn't willing to sit back and watch him, l like, sit there in his zone of excellence when I know what genius looks like for myself and for him.
Yeah.
And, I mean, quite frankly, I just want the lifestyle that genius is going to bring about, and I was tired of not living with it.
That is so funny.
So
So it's a little self-serving, but in the end, I really cared about him.
and it was 100% his mountain to climb.
Yes.
I couldn't do any more about it
Right.
than be supportive, and he had to 100% own that piece and
Yes.
pursue it,
And
and I'm
decide if he wants to do
happy
that.
to say we are moving in a much better direction. So,
Congratulations.
yeah, and things are instantly happier, more joyful, lighter, freer.
Love it.
He's a happier person, thank God. But anybody in your life, it behooves you to help walk them or
Mhm.
support them in their
Mm.
own journey to move through these zones and past their upper limits, because their joy is only going to benefit you in the long run.
Yeah.
However, a lot of people, instead of supporting it in that way, especially if they're coming from watching somebody move into a genius zone and they're not there, react in jealousy
Mm.
and self-sabotage of themselves and their relationship.
Yeah, let me like just hit on that point.
Perfect.
So there's several ways in a relationship that we I might have done all of these. We
Guilty.
we limit positive energy in the relationship. Number 1, done. Check. But it is starting arguments out of fear of intimacy in times when we could be exchanging intimacy.
Right?
Right.
How often when a fight erupts could instead a really vulnerable time of sharing and caring happen instead?
Right. And I would say this is probably hard for people who have not seen these concepts in the real world. Right?
If they weren't modeled
Right.
as children in healthy relationship dynamics, they don't even know what it looks like.
I feel like it has to be an intrinsic knowing, like there's got to be better way before you kind of like, that was not healthy. So number 2, withholding significant communications. I have done this. It doesn't
I'm
work.
the worst.
Oh, by the way, tomorrow we're doing blah, 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 blah. And you're like, well, I'm not.
Yeah.
Could I have a choice? Right?
My family has me pinpointed as like withholding communication. I mean, I just think they weren't listening because I'm sure that I mentioned it
In your head.
in my head. But also, I mean, really the more serious side of that is like, something might disappoint someone.
Oh,
Something
hate that.
that you're ashamed of, and so
Mhm.
you don't share. But you not sharing is actually holding everybody back. It's holding you back. It's holding your partner back. So it's not so much lack of communication, but that deliberate, intentional
Withholding.
censoring or
Mhm.
withholding of communication. That is definitely going to stifle your relationship.
Yeah.
How can you move forward into a better place if you're not being honest and vulnerable?
Totally doesn't foster trust.
No, that's,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
my goodness.
And then the third thing, needing to control or dominate the other person or needing them to control or dominate you. We don't need to be in this win-win or win-lose, right? Like, okay, you're right. I was wrong. Or I'm right. Admit I'm right. That never works. Remember, people, we are on the same team.
So this is poignant for me because we've been having a conversation, a little bit of a power struggle. Like sometimes my husband will say a way that he thinks something should be done. And I am just like, that's no. I think otherwise, and I'm unwilling to compromise. Like, I need to turn his will to see it my way.
Interesting.
So, yeah, and it's like, and I and worse than that, I not only need to get him to see it my way, which maybe I could get, I want him to like it my way.
Oh, wow. That's a
This
lot
is
to
something
ask.
I know we've just kind of been recently unpacking and like looking at. It's like, I don't want you to just love mowing or like mow the lawn. I want you to be excited about mowing the lawn.
No one
I know.
ever. I
But
mean,
yet no, I'm not excited about it. But
yeah,
I would really like it if you were.
right. Oh,
So it's interesting, but that's like me sort of trying to bend his will
mm-hmm.
or dominate
And
a
then like it, and then
situation.
like what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do I do that? Why am I doing that? But I'm obviously it's something to do with me being unwilling to let go of an upper limit that I have
Mm-hmm.
around how something gets done.
Well, I think you pinned it when you said power struggle. You guys might be in this situation with this exact like scenario. One wins, one loses. Like, how can we both win?
Right.
That should actually be the energy you bring into the conversation. Like, hey, I like doing it this way. You like doing it a different way. How can we both win versus like, I need you to agree to my way of doing it and like it so I can win and you can lose, right?
Right.
It's that
And that
power struggle.
also comes through in like, yeah, I mean, wanting to be the one who in the end was like, see, I was right. Right. And I'm always sitting back there just
Oh,
like, hee.
I told you
But you
so.
know what part of it is? That guy, my husband who I adore and love, he's really freaking smart.
He
And there
is.
are very few things when I actually think, no, I know I'm right on this one. So
And
when I
you want to
do,
prove it.
I'm really committed to winning. But that said, it is definitely one of the ways that people hold others back from achieving upper limits is through dominance, or hold themselves back is through allowing themselves to be dominated.
Yes, and I think that at the root of this, the one of the three questions was about intimacy, right? It's really about the core of intimacy, but I would argue it's more about vulnerability.
Absolutely.
So, like a lot of times, you will see people in relationships binge eating, deflecting compliments. We talked about this before.
Yep.
Holding back on communication, drinking too much. Those are the ways that we limit love in our lives. Where
Yep.
like it's that self-sabotaging and maybe limiting or masking our fear of vulnerability and intimacy with another person, that deep connection, right? Like,
Yep.
I'm afraid if I go so deep, you're going to wound me and hurt me.
Yep.
And so I do these things, push you away, whatever the coping mechanism is. But what if you didn't do that and you could, take 100% responsibility? Hey, look, I did this thing. It wasn't my brightest moment, but I admit I did it. And suffer the wrath if you have to. Like, I told you so.
Yeah, take it.
And then move towards, because I feel like that just breaks down walls,
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, one of the things here from the book is that you should really in relationship try not to limit emotions. Emotions are meant to be
Interesting.
felt. Don't try to talk yourself or your partner out of them. Let both of yourself feel them. So this is actually recent for me too, because in conversation, I'm not like an overly emotional person, but certain things I'll just bubble over,
Yeah.
right? The tears flow.
Right.
It also depends on the time of the month, right? Like
Yes.
just and my husband would shut down. Like if I started
Oh,
crying or if I
doesn't know
was
what to
emotional,
do.
he floods. Like it's a trigger for him that he's just like, I don't know what to do with this. And he shuts down and he doesn't want to talk about it at all, right?
Oh.
Where emotions are just a process. It's
Mhm.
processing through.
Their
Like there
energy
is
and motion.
and that's one of my favorite things that you say. Energy in motion. But it's moving through me. But
Mhm.
I shouldn't be made to feel shame or and not be able to be vulnerable.
No.
So we actually been talking a lot about this, and we have teenage daughters. So
Highly emotional.
tears are flowing in our house like crazy. And I mean, it's a lot for somebody to live with. I recognize that. But that's actually probably been an easier place for him to
Mm.
experience. That's just like, this is just going to happen and we're going to be fine. We're going to
Mm.
move through it. The emotions will subside and we can move to the
So he
other side.
personalizes your
But
emotions
with
then.
me,
Yes.
it's very raw. So we've just been working on that. Like, I don't want to feel like I can't be emotional and vulnerable with my partner,
Right.
but he needs to recognize that my emotions are not really about him, right?
Interesting. I think what that is you taking 100% responsibility. I'm feeling this way. I need to
Yes.
express this in this moment. This does not have anything to do with you. This is all about me. Because I could see if I was, you and I were having a moment and you were talking about things that maybe with the podcast you weren't happy about, how I could start take that personal, like, well, I promise I'll step up more. I promise I don't even know what grievance we would have with each other in that
We've
situation,
never
but
had to
right.
confront that in this relationship.
But I will say, like, I could see how you could maybe
Yeah.
take that, like, oh gosh, I have to do more. I have to be better. And you'd get flooded and you'd feel like attacked. And that's not what's happening. The other
Right.
person is just trying to express themselves in a need to like confide in their person. So I could understand his perspective on that.
And most men, a lot of men from early on, and a lot of women were told, don't cry, right?
Right.
You fell down, you hurt yourself, don't cry.
Right.
Shush. Like
Suppress.
shushed from the beginning and
Yes.
suppressed in their
Yes.
physical expression of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So there's where your thermostat is, right?
Right.
Your thermostat is set at tears are bad.
Right.
Crying is bad, emotions are bad. We don't do that. I mean, even thinking about where we live in the Midwest, like northern Minnesota, like stoic. Like
Very.
we don't show that.
Mm-hmm.
So then maybe you find yourself in a relationship with a partner who comes from a walk of life. Maybe they're a crazy Italian with lots of emotional outbursts where that's more common culturally. That can be really hard to understand, like
Yes.
how to receive that.
Such a difference.
I don't I think about like how you think about emotions as upper limits in themselves and in lack of willingness to allow them. If you
Mm.
don't allow your emotions to flow, you are also upper limiting yourself with that. So I think that's what we've been trying to navigate or negotiate is
Sure.
like, hey, like this happens, sit with it, sit with me, flow through it. Because on the other side of it, I'm going to feel better. And I'm going to have had some epiphanies that are going to make me better in having this conversation or working through whatever challenge or problem we're trying to solve. And that has gone a long way. I hadn't even thought about it in terms of this book, but now I'm like, oh,
that's the thing.
That's exactly what was going on here.
Yes.
So it's amazing how, every topic that we discuss somehow relates back to relationships most of the time.
Feels like it.
But it's really important. And in thinking about how you show up, being 100% of yourself in your partnership. Or if you aren't able to do that, or your partner isn't able to do that, perhaps that relationship has run its course.
Right.
Or you need to, think about the amount of time or limit the amount of time that
Mhm.
you spend with that person. Say it's a family member.
Right.
If you are just not aligned and you're operating in very different zones, they may not, or you may not be the best influence on each other.
Right.
So who you surround yourself, you're with other people who are also operating in their zone of genius, which I feel like for us and our
Yes.
friendship is the case.
Yes.
There's very little friction. And let me tell you, there's a
Yes.
lot of joy.
Right. Absolutely. And we have sometimes opportunities where friction could arise between us, but it just doesn't.
No.
Because
We
I
don't-
feel like when we do this, we're both operating from we're taking 100% responsibility
Yep.
for ourselves. We understand these concepts. We understand like ownership and autonomy. And we're not projecting on, well, it's your fault or your fault. You wanted whatever. I mean, I don't even know how that could work, but like we are not in that. And I could see if we could have these sorts of relationships with all of our family members
Right.
and these sorts of conversations, how the tides can turn because it's not win-lose, it's win-win, and we're on the same team. That's when
Oh
you're
my
in your
gosh,
zone of
like,
genius.
exactly. I mean, think about it in a workplace. Like win-win. We're on the same team. We're all working towards a common
Yes.
goal. Like it's not you versus me.
Right.
Thinking about how to get yourself there by using these concepts for yourself and taking responsibility for your actions will have dramatic consequences in those relationships.
Love it.
Well, this has been another fun episode from
Yes.
our Big Leap series, or The Big Leap, I should say. So again, if you haven't read the book, we highly encourage you to pick up this just little genius
Gem nugget.
gem.
Yes.
Order it on Amazon, find it in the bookstore. Again, you'll see the fish leaping from one bowl to the next. And dive into these topics in our previous episodes. And we've got a couple more still to go. So thanks for listening. Cheers, friends. You've just finished another episode of the Heart and Soul podcast. We hope that you've enjoyed the show, and if you've loved it, we would love if you'd leave us a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening. You can find links to leave that review in the show notes, where you'll also find other resources that we reference on our show. And if you think a friend could find value in today's episode or any future episodes, please share this episode with them on social media. This is one of the only ways the podcast can organically grow, and we just can't wait to connect with you and all of your besties. You can also find Monique and I on our many social media platforms or our websites, and we're going to leave links to those in the show notes as well. Thank you for listening. We look forward to sharing our hearts and souls with you again next time. With Heart, I'm Mariah.
And with Soul, I'm Monique.